Welcome back. Unacceptable. That's what a judge is calling the U.S. government's progress in tracking down parents who were separated from their children at the border and then later deported. Remember, more than 2,500 children were separated as a result of the Trump administration implementing a zero-tolerance policy that started in April. And now, nearly 500 deported parents still cannot be located. The government suggested advocacy groups help search for them. On Thursday, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, said it was willing to help.
If the government's left to their own devices, they're not going to find the parents, or they're not going to do it quickly. So we have said, look, we just want these children back together. If there's any way we can help, we will. So we have organized NGOs all over this country and all over the world to help find these parents. All we are asking from the government is give us some information about these parents so we can find them. Right now, we have a name and a country, some addresses here or there. We don't know if the addresses are accurate.
Still, the ACLU says the responsibility should not shift from the government, and the judge agrees with that, because there are still 711 unaccompanied minors in government custody. So what does the government do with them? Well, parents of more than 500 children may have been deported without them. Another reason those children could still be in custody, the government may have found that their parents had criminal convictions, and so they cannot legally put them back together. If these children don't get reunited with their parents, they could be released to either another family member or somebody who qualifies as a sponsor. They could also go into the foster care system, and some may end up getting deported back from the United States. Let's discuss. We're joined by Richard Asana, founder of Forever Homes for Foster Kids. Richard, perhaps naively, I kind of assumed once those families crossed the U.S. border and were taken in by the immigration system here in the U.S. that there was a fairly simple way to keep a track of everybody and therefore a fairly simple way to reunite everybody. Why isn't that the case?
Well, the problem that happened was that the children got separated from their parents. And this was something that has not happened before in the past. And so, as you said, children and parents were kept together, so there was no reason to have this massive tracking system. But once the decision was made to separate those children from their parents, this has created an incredible problem logistically and for reuniting these children.
That's my question, and that's the part I don't understand. Again, naively, I kind of thought there would be some big Excel spreadsheet where every line would correspond, every child would correspond to a parent, and it would be easy to match them again.
You know, we have seen this throughout history when it comes to the Spanish language. These people have two last names, and so we're coming into a culture here in the United States where we only have one last name. So you have John Smith. These are people who have two last names, and most people, unfortunately, in the government are not familiar with that kind of structure. So they may have just written down that the child's name was Marco Hernandez, and that they belong to Maria, and they may have gotten the second last name instead of the first last name. They could have mixed them up. They could have put one last name as an initial. There are so many different ways to mess up a Spanish last name for a culture that does not understand the structure.
And the government is actually saying that some of these children might never see their parents again. Do you think how is that possible?
Well, that's a very accurate statement, and it's extremely possible because we have to keep in mind, we have children that are 2, 3, 4 years old. Their native language is only Spanish. It's not like they're bilingual. And these are children who, for the most part, don't know where they grew up, don't have that kind of understanding about where they're from, so they have no way to help. And the same is true with children that come into the U.S. foster care system. They also, if they're at a particular age, they have no way of explaining to authorities who they are and possible relatives that they could be reunited with.
So, Richard, I'm going to labor this point a little bit because I find it to be of critical importance. You were telling me that the way the information was entered into the U.S. government's records when those families were taken in and then separated may have been so bad that there may be no way just 2 months down the line to reunite children with their parents. That's what you're telling me.
I am saying that, and that is what is going to happen for a significant percentage of these children. They are never going to be reunited with their families. And again, I want to stress this point. We see a parallel to what happens in the U.S. foster system when we have our own children who are of Hispanic heritage, who are U.S. citizens, who are put into the U.S. foster care system where they may have a mother, a grandparent living just 50, 100 miles south of the U.S. border, and we can't track them down.
All right, Richard, look, thank you very much. And these children are going to remember the day they came to the United States as the day that they were separated from their parents forever, for those who can't be reunited. And, you know, regardless of what one's views are on immigration policy, that is just a stunning statement. Richard via Asana, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.